Promise to Try is more, I feel like it's like it's a love song to her mother, to me, where Oh Father is more of a you hurt me, but I love you. It's an acceptance.
Hi, welcome to a new episode of Madonna Songbook, the podcast that is all about Madonna's music, her great songs, her songwriting, and producing talent. I'm your host, Giulio Mazzoleni. The podcast is part of a project with 3 outlets as it goes along the book and the Instagram account, all called Madonna Songbook. I am proud to have built with the followers and the book readers a community of over 10,000 people who are passionate about a conversation on Madonna's music. As a fan and as a music industry professional, I've always been charmed by Madonna's talent at making songs and always thought that there wasn't enough focus on her songwriting talent. Now there is a place for it, so here we are. In each episode of the podcast, I pick 2 songs from Madonna's catalog and discuss them with a guest. We then broaden the conversation to the common theme of those songs and move to a whole playlist of titles of the same theme. I can't wait to read your comments. Please do take a moment to leave your thoughts, whether you're watching on YouTube and Spotify or just listening on Apple, Amazon, Podbean, and other platforms. Without further ado, let's take another journey into Madonna's songbook, leave the chatter behind, let the music take control, and let's get emotional. The subject of this episode is Madonna's songs about her family, and in particular, we'll discuss 2 very powerful and dramatic songs, Promise to Try and Oh Father. To analyze these very intimate songs, I have called someone who's gotten to know Madonna's poetic soul with an exclusive insight in her earlier artistic days, Guy Guido from Palm Springs. Hi, Guy.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. I'm so
Oh
glad to
yeah,
have you as a guest on my
thank
show
you.
after you've been very kindly uh, helping me with the research of my book. I will tell more about this later on, but it's been extremely nice of you, so I'm grateful.
I'm happy to do it, and thank you for inviting me to do this. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Great. So, a brief bio to introduce you to those who don't know you and those who want to know more about you. Guy Guido is a filmmaker whose first feature film, Madonna and the Breakfast Club, was in an exclusive 4-year streaming deal with Hulu and was also distributed all over the world on DVD and on streaming. Guy loves working with biographical origin stories, and his next feature is very, very special, and I'll ask you about it at the end of our chat. Also, I would like to remind everyone that Guy has done a short feature film in his early days called Physical Attraction, which is about the days of downtown New York in the 80s, with obviously some hints at Madonna, a semi-autobiographical project you were telling me, right?
Yes, yes, it's semi-autobiographical about my first introduction to Madonna as a teenager.
And that is available on streaming platforms as well.
Yes,
Look out for it. I really enjoyed it.
thank you.
Before we discuss the music of this episode, I have this thing that I call the Madonna experience. So please share it with us. I mean, how did you become a Madonna fan? I know you're a fan from the very early hours. And what is your favorite song or album she's ever done personally?
Yeah, so I was there from the very, very beginning of Madonna's career before she even had a first album out. When I went to see this, to me, unknown artist at the time, performing in this local dance club that me and my friends used to go to on weekends. We saw this ad in the newspaper about this singer named Madonna who was going to be performing there and singing this song, Physical Attraction, which I don't think I really recalled what that song was. But I thought it'd be fun just to see a performer, any performer. And we went to the club and nobody knew who it was. Nobody knew who Madonna was. And she came out and with two dancers and just walked through the crowd of everybody to get onto the dance floor. And then she did Everybody, Physical Attraction, and Burning Up. That was her set list. Those were the only songs that were released at the time. Again, there was no full album yet. So, I stood right there in the front and was sort of just instantly mesmerized by this woman. There was something so interesting. Remember, this is suburbia that we were living in, this very, mainstream little bubble of America. And Madonna comes in looking very East Village, and her dancers as well, which to us was kind of, a little bizarre, a little, what's happening here? Who are these people? But at the same time, very interesting, where you couldn't look away, at least for me. At one point, I later learned that this was just part of her routine, so I wasn't so special. But at one point, she walked over to me during the song, and she came over and she grabbed a hold of my tie and ran her finger down it or whatever. And I was like, oh my God. And so she finished her set, and everyone else went back to their dancing and stuff. But I was like, no, I need to meet this person. So my friends and I went back to the office of the club and said, hey, is there any way we can get an autograph from Madonna? And so they said, hold on. And they went back in and they came out with her. And she was, I have to say, it wasn't like she was overly friendly and excited to meet us. It felt more like an obligation. Like, okay, some kids want to meet me. I'm going to do it.
Duty.
Yeah. And so she signed a picture, a promotional photo that she, I guess, was giving out at the time from Sire Records. And I also had her sign, at the time I smoked cigarettes, and I had a box and she signed that. And it was very quick. And that was it. So, but after that, like literally the next day, I went running around to stores to see if I could find, her record. And again, there was just the singles out at that time, and I found those. So that was my introduction to Madonna, and I became an instant fan. And then I watched the progress, which was interesting to see, to watch her grow and grow and grow. And then all of a sudden, everybody knew who Madonna
Isn't this
was.
incredible? Because, a lot of people ask each other, what was your first concert? Mine personally was Blonde Ambition. I wanted to go to Who's That Girl tour, but I was 14. My parents were too lazy to take me to Torino and blah, blah, blah. And some others say, well, I saw the Virgin tour. So I thought that was the limit. But no, Guy does better. He has seen the club dates in 1983. How can you beat that?
Yeah. So then, to your question about my favorite, what's my favorite music of hers? I think I would say Like a Prayer was probably my favorite album on a more, I guess, intellectual music level. I would say that's probably my favorite album. Yeah.
Which is why you're here to talk with me about the two songs we picked for today. So let's get it going with the first one. Okay, let's start with Promise to Try. I've picked this song along with Oh Father because these were the first two official songs where Madonna was talking about her family, although we will never know in previous ones how much of personal dedication to her family is to be considered. Although, Live to Tell, she did say that it was about the growing pains and family matters, but these are the two first explicit songs. And Promise to Try is the first of the two that we're talking about today that she's written. We recently found out through documented proof that while she was mixing Ciao Italia before it was out, she was already in the studio with Pat Leonard and Stephen Bray in January 1988. So the song Promise to Try, along with Like a Prayer, Cherish, Dear Jessie, Till Death Do Us Part, and Spanish Eyes, was demoed and very similarly recorded to the one version that we've heard a year later. And that is really incredible to say how fast she was at developing her songwriting songs as soon as she got off the tour, she already had a lot of inspiration. And this song is obviously a Madonna, Patrick Leonard collaboration, a one that is very intimate of them. The demo was recorded with Madonna standing next to Pat at the piano with no headphones, according to him. The early version didn't feature the bridge nor the strings, which were written and arranged later in the fall, but it was already a very direct song about losing her mother. Now, you're a movie director, and I'm very curious to hear your take on the fact that this song is sung by Madonna as one voice, but is speaking in two levels. She is not only herself talking to her father about the trauma of losing her mother, but she's also her father's voice telling her to be strong. Little girl, don't you forget her face, laughing away your tears when she was the one who felt all the pain. She answers, I promise to try. It's not the same. He says, keep your head held high, ride like the wind, never look behind, life isn't fair. And she says, that's what you said, so I try not to care. So it's really a dialogue within herself with her father, and she remembers, or maybe she says she wishes her father had told these things, because in many interviews she said that he, for the type of man of Catholic origins, a hard worker, son of immigrants in the 1950s, wasn't emotionally very open to her children, to his children.
Yeah.
And when he lost his wife and was widowed with 6 children, he probably was desperate himself and couldn't cope with it, so they wouldn't talk about it. Madonna in some interviews even said, all I knew at 5 that she had gone to sleep and never came back, so I was afraid of sleeping. So maybe she's wishing she had this dialogue. How do you envision that?
Yeah, I think it's all open for interpretation, right? Every song, but I do take that as more of something that she's hearing in the voice of her mother speaking to her.
As well.
Maybe her mother might have said to her as a little girl that sometimes life isn't fair, Madonna, about some other issue, But I think that there's a lot of, with this particular song, she's trying to figure out her feelings about the loss. I think that it's twofold. One, she's obviously missing her mother. She loved her mother deeply, but she's also angry at her mother for leaving her. Or just as a little girl would interpret that. I think as an adult, she understands that her mother didn't purposely leave her, but as a little girl, she doesn't understand that. Why am I being left? Why am I being rejected? And there's no greater loss than the loss of your mother, And I think she wants to, escape the pain by. I think for this song, it's kind of she's telling herself through the voice of her mother, I know you want to escape this pain, but don't forget me. I know you want to let go of this pain, but you have to feel it. Don't run away too fast. I think you forgot to kiss her goodbye. Again, don't try so hard to forget because you don't want to feel the pain. That's how I interpret.
Very psychoanalytical. In a way, when you're only 5, you don't have that many memories to hold on to you with this person that is gone, and it's the person that put you in the world. So the overlapping of pain and memories might risk that if you bury the pain, you will bury the memories. You will bury the person. It's hard to detach.
Exactly. As much as you don't want to keep thinking about it and feeling that, you have to, it's someone you loved so deeply. Why would you want to forget that? Hold on to that face. Remember that. Remember. But I think the other side of this too is sometimes you tend to, when you lose somebody at all, but especially so young, when you didn't really experience much of your life with them, you tend to sort of put them on a pedestal, an unrealistic pedestal, or you almost a place where like a sainthood, because she never experienced the normal things that a child or teenager or adolescent would go through with their mother or parent, where they start butting heads and there's some anger and there's some disagreements and all of that, like she does go through with her father, which we'll talk about in the song "Oh Father," which is a very different perspective. We hear her mother is like almost this sainthood because there
Mm,
was no bad. She never experienced anything but good from her mother. So it's
yeah,
easy to
it's
put her on
yeah,
that place of sainthood in her life, in her
idolizing.
heart, in her mind. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
My feeling about this song is that when I saw it, at 16 when I first heard it, I was like, oh, this is a very sad song. I can relate in my sad moments. But then as an adult, I learned that in this song, she doesn't exploit the pain. She doesn't trivialize it. She she shows it as a wound. Doesn't say it hurts. She just shows it. It's there. She's telling you it's part of my life, but she's not commiserating herself at all.
Hmm.
We know Madonna never does. She's
Yeah,
very proud,
yeah.
and it's very interesting because it's like one of those beautiful Renaissance paintings where you see these martyrs suffering and showing your pain as a sacrifice, but they're
Hmm.
not feeling themselves victims.
Yeah,
So I thought it was very brave of Madonna to show this and to dedicate the album to her mother.
yeah, yeah.
I always thought she purportedly put this song at the end of the A side when records were divided in A side and B side because you would need a moment to pause and reflect. Even with the gesture of flipping the cassette and then going on to Cherish, you needed a break. It was
Yep,
so
yep,
profound and intimate that it demanded some silence.
yep.
And to me, that was it, which is fun because now when you play the album on streaming or a CD, it just goes from Promise to Try to Cherish. And to me, it's always too abrupt. I'm
Yes,
always
yeah.
a
Like, wait a
bit
second.
disgusted at it. No, wait.
Yeah,
Also because the song is short relatively to how the song she was
yeah,
making at the time.
yeah.
So it's very simple and delicate. A great thing about the music of that song is, again, that it was born out of a Patrick Leonard Madonna collaboration, and they they wrote all of their songs with the piano and voice and then developed the rest of the sounds, whereas this one stayed where it was, and then it added some chamber music with strings arranged by Billy Myers, who was one of the keyboard players on the Virgin tour, and he also helped on a few albums, and
Yeah.
conducted by Suzy Katayama, who's a great Hollywood string conductor and worked with Madonna all throughout until I think Ray of Light.
Yeah.
And I would like to mention the amazing cello solo in that song because Larry Corbett, who worked with Sarah Vaughan and Nat King Cole, so at the time he must already be a man of a certain age, I think gave an amazing touch to that song with that cello. It's like a bird crying. I don't know. I think it's one of my favorite instruments, and I
Hmm.
love
Hmm.
that amazing solo in
Yeah.
that song.
Yeah. But Patrick Leonard, I think Patrick Leonard and Madonna, to me, their collaboration was one of the greatest in Madonna's career in all of her music.
Well, I have one item that I really cherish about this conversation, and it's Song Talk from the early 80s, actually from 1989. It was a publishing industry publication, as you can see on newspaper paper. Um, I love this interview with Madonna because she talks candidly about her songwriting. Look it up. It's not easy to find it on the web, uh, but you can look out for eBay and stuff to find the original magazine. And they also interview Pat Leonard, and he explains how he sees this song very different from O Father, musically, technically, whereas Madonna says they're twin songs because of the contents, and
Yes.
which is the same reason why we picked them for this episode. But
Yeah.
talking about losing her mother, I have a quote from one of her interviews, and she said, and she often said, if my mother were alive, I would be someone else. I would be a completely different person. I have to be careful sometimes. When someone dies and the years go by, you tend to make them into something they're not. The song is about letting go of that. It's about a yearning to have her in my life, but also about trying to accept the fact that she's not. I do talk to her often. I don't know if she can hear me or not, but I tell her things that a girl can only say to her mother. And on this subject, you very, very kindly shared with me a sound clip from the amazing research you did thanks to the collaboration of Dan Gilroy from The Breakfast Club, he shared with you some very intimate tapes of his that he recorded in conversation with Madonna. And we're going to play this little clip. But please tell me the context of this conversation.
So it's kind of like these two young people, just tape recorders at the time were a novelty item. It was new. It was just, you would just record yourself talking just because you could. And we'll just talk nonsense and just talk for the sake of talking, maybe say some fun things and maybe just say some poetic things, whatever. We'll just talk and then we'll listen to it, and that's fun. So that's where the conversation was. And within that conversation, she would just talk about random things. And in there, she speaks about this Korean woman that she would see at a laundromat who took a liking to Madonna. And Madonna felt that this woman, was looking for a daughter figure in Madonna. And Madonna, I guess, was drawn to her because she was looking for a mother figure. And then, as you'll hear in the clip, she says, she's always looking for a mother figure. And anywhere possible, she tries to find that mothering person to experience, and how she feels so shortchanged in life, or gypped, as she says, by never having had that. So it's sad. It's she says it in a fun, candid, funny way, but it's also very sad at the same time.
So let's hear it.
I know this Korean woman, and she wants to adopt me. She needs a daughter.
Oh.
And I need a mother.
Oh.
I want a mother. I look for a mother all the time, and she never shows up anywhere. Honest. You don't believe me, do you?
I do believe you. But
I got gypped.
no.
I want a mother to hug. I got gypped. Love letter. Love letter. Love letter.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, Guy Guido. Once again, this clip has never been heard before, and it comes from Dan Gilroy's tapes from his conversation with Madonna. And the photos you have seen and the pages you have seen are from the first chapter of my book, Madonna Songbook, specifically on the songs of the early days. You have to know that more than a couple of photos appearing there for the first time on a book were kindly given by Dan Gilroy and Gary Burke from Breakfast Club. And Guy was very, very helpful getting these photos, introducing me to them. It's been very precious, this help, and I'm so glad to be sharing these photos with the fans now. And also thank you for covering all the songs and helping me to correct a few titles and a few credits, because nobody had ever covered the early days in such details. And when I started writing the book, well, first I wrote True Blue as a template, but then I started from the scratch, and I thought, oh my God, starting from here is a very difficult position. I cannot look into books. I have to dig into the files that I have and stuff. So watching your documentary and pausing it and taking notes was extremely helpful.
That's great. I love it.
Let's move on to Oh Father. Let's talk about Oh Father, the second song for this episode, and the second song from the same album, Like a Prayer, which was the first for Madonna to be so intimate and revealing of her intimate stories. Oh Father is again a collaboration with Patrick Leonard, but was recorded in the summer. Now, I really enjoy knowing the details from how this song came about, from both interviews that Pat Leonard gave and Madonna gave, because Pat Leonard is extremely proud of this song. He has called it their best collaboration. And although obviously Like a Prayer and Frozen are mega songs in their work, it's kind of understandable how integral this whole song is to the definition of their collaboration. It started in the summer of '88. Madonna was on Broadway performing in a David Mamet play in what she defined a depressing role, but a very interesting play. And she was going through her 30th birthday which was 30 was the age that her mother had when she died. Madonna was going through a very pensive moment, and she was already in difficult times with her husband Sean Penn, who was also abroad filming in Asia. So he was away. There were a lot of things that were defining that summer to be happy for her. So, among other things, to get away from these thoughts, she said, let's be creative. She summoned Pat Leonard from Los Angeles. He went to New York, and specifically, as she always does, she looked for a very simple studio that resembled the music building days when she was very poor, and she would be focusing on making the music and not on the sophisticated equipment or people coming by. And she defined a dingy studio in the Garment District, which is Midtown New York. And that's where she made the song. So all of these depressing conditions and the music tape that Patrick Leonard brought in, where essentially the bone of the song was ready. He said musically it was written, except the melody of the verse that Madonna composed herself. She added the lyrics, and Oh Father came. And again, it's a very sad and intimate song, which seems to be just about her father. But then when Madonna made a video for that song with David Fincher, it visualized the fact that it's also about other concepts, other figures, other father figures, male figures in her life, her relationship with religion. As a matter of fact, the song Oh Father, the title, kind of like not mocks, but references Our Father, the main prayer of the Catholic religion. And there's also a figure of an abusive husband in that video. And again, the relationship between a child and a father when the mother dies, with depictions of a funeral, including the sewn lips that Madonna has so often referenced to as a memory of her mother's funeral, which happened to be, I don't know if you guys can see it at my back, in the cover of Madame X as well. She has sewn lips because she looked like her mother in that photo, according to her sister. So there are multiple layers of interpretation, and she has opened them. Even when she performed it in Blonde Ambition, it was more about a relationship with a man who also seemed to be a religious figure, but also physically much bigger than her. It was Carlton Wilburn, the great dancer. There was a lot in there, and anyone could put in their own interpretation and their own feelings, which is the great thing about Madonna's songs. I especially like the chorus about running away and feeling so good, having separated from pain. You cannot hurt me now. You cannot make me cry anymore. But obviously, there's an admission that there's a pain, that there's a wound. And then the beautiful third verse where she says, maybe someday when I look back, I'll be able to say, you didn't mean to be cruel. Somebody hurt you too. So it's more like opening up to the other person, whoever that is, a husband, a priest, religion, a teacher, a boss, your father, anyone. It actually could even be your child, your son, if you're in a different position and situation. So I think it's extremely touching, and vocally, it's a beautiful, beautiful song. What's your take on that?
Well, yeah, I think Madonna always has a way of tying religion into sexuality and relationships and her parents, and just she mashes all those things together often. But in this song particularly, I think this one, like I was saying earlier, is in stark contrast to Promise to Try, in as far as it being Promise to Try is more, I feel like it's like it's a love song to her mother, to me, where Oh Father is more of a you hurt me, but I love you. It's an acceptance. Where that's where the contrast is, and I think, like I said earlier, because Madonna actually grew up with her father and experienced so much turmoil with her father, so much adversity, so much, the fighting and the control and all of that stuff that she never had to deal with her mother. And whether it was physical abuse or not, it's abuse on a different level, emotionally, and even neglect can be considered abuse. I think we all tend to, especially as children, look at our parents as these figures that should know it all, and they're above it all, and everything they say is the golden word, and they know better than anything and anybody. You don't think that they could ever be wrong, but you never question that, or that they're human even.
Every child, every teenager has a kind of distance with their parents and kind of feels an over-imposing figure that sometimes they need to run away from. So maybe it's her at 30 looking back at the fact that she's stuck with that rebellious mood from her adolescence. But if you never wanted to hurt me, why am I running away? So she starts questioning her own beliefs and looks back. On the other side, the love between Madonna and her father has been clear and immense throughout the years. And she dedicated her first album to him. I think it was more about like, you see, I did make good. You didn't believe that it was the right choice, but thanks for letting me do it in the end, because, he didn't force her to stay or something like that.
Yeah, and I think
she was a free bird.
Yeah, and I think the part about, like, if you didn't mean to hurt me, why am I running away? He didn't mean to hurt her. He did love her. And any pain that he did cause her was, for better or worse, it was out of love. Maybe it was wrong the way that he expressed it, but the reason that he was so hard on her was out of love, out of fear of what would become of her, because he loved her so much. If he didn't love her, he wouldn't care. Go ahead, go off to New York. I don't care what you do. You're crazy. You know what I mean? But because he loved her so deeply, he was going to put down his fist like, no, this is not what you're going to do. And, so he did love her. And it was because of that love that, unfortunately, he hurt her at the time. But I think she realizes that as an adult now, and probably more so as a parent herself. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I'm sure of that. And obviously, such an intense and powerful emotion, as opposed to the delicacy of the pain of Promise to Try, needed a strong support with the arrangement, which is why probably composing it voice and piano was not going to be the end of it. The great thing about this song is that it was recorded in live sessions out of suggestion of Patrick Leonard. This and Pray for Spanish Eyes were recorded in so-called live sessions, which means having all the musicians playing at the same time. It was already common in the 80s to record separate tracks, solos, and then mix them and build them together. Now there's a lot of computer, and in music, artists don't use a lot of live musicians, so it's all programming. But the specific idea for this album was to feature a lot of instruments, and Madonna accepted something that in the beginning she was against, because she likes to control things. So if she takes one chapter at the time, it's easier to know exactly what to want. But Patrick Leonard was teaching her the importance of doing something all together. And along with her and him in the studio, there was Jonathan Moffett, the great drummer from the first 3 tours of Madonna, but also Michael Jackson's favorite drummer. Billy Myers, again, arranging the strings. Guy Pratt playing on bass. Guy Pratt is one of the most accomplished bass players from England. And Jay Winding, who would play keyboards on Blonde Ambition Tour and become the music director on Girly Show. And again, Suzy Katayama doing the strings. Apart from the strings and a couple of BVs that Bill Bottrell, the sound engineer, insisted with Patrick Leonard that they would record to enhance the beauty of the song towards the end, everything by his own insistence was taped at the same time, including Madonna singing, but she was standing at the board on the other side of the screen with a microphone and headphones, looking at the musicians in different booths, performing their part. And Guy Pratt, in his autobiography, explains how detailed she was with indications, with specific notes on technically how to deliver their performance. And he was surprised because she was also singing. They would finish the take and she would have notes for the drummer, for the keyboard player, for the guitar. We don't have the names of the guitar players, but I think there's at least a couple. And if they really did everything all together. And in 3 takes, Patrick Leonard says the song was done. So it's really about the moment, which is really incredible of these songs. And then they added the strings, which were really fantastic. I was
Yes.
mentioning the video. This song became a single, missing the top 10 in Madonna's career for the first time since Borderline. And then again, she would have many others. And it was an artistic choice. I have the beautiful single from France. It was the only European market to release it. And then this amazing 3-inch CD from Japan that I found in my long career of a collector. And the single came out again in 1996 when it was picked for the follow-up to You'll See. It was, I think the cover of the single was very cheap. They just took a frame from the video. I was friends with someone at Warner Italy back in the days. And I asked him, why did you pick this song? And he said, why? Do you think it's wrong? I said, no, it's my personal favorite, but it's very odd that you're picking an old song and not One More Chance or other songs. And he said, well, the artist is not available for making videos because she's about to leave for Argentina to shoot Evita, and we needed a video. It was the MTV days. And so this was a available video, and so we sent it out. The same reason for this song to miss the charts in 1989 was a very sad video and a single that didn't have tracks, remixes or so. And again, the choice was made because David Fincher, who had done Express Yourself with Madonna and would go on to do Vogue and Bad Girl and direct these videos, he told Madonna, if you let me make a video with a father, I promise you we will make an amazing video. So she listened to him and went to Warner's and said, this is the 4th single from the album, going against all advices because it wasn't radio friendly. And again, commercially, it didn't have B-sides and so forth. But we got this fantastic video. It's one of my favorites, absolutely. And I was happy she did it on Blonde Ambition, though briefly, and put it in Truth or Dare again, where at the point where one of her dancers was having a difficult relationship with his father. So the whole theme recurs in her narration. I would like to add that the song is very popular with artists as well, music artists as well. Pink, when she was a kid, daughter of divorced parents, had issues, but a love-hate relationship with her father. And in one of her live videos or documentaries, she showed original VHS tape of her at a young kids talent show in her city, in a theater, where she was singing Oh Father, but more broadly, everybody can access Sia singing Oh Father in a very beautiful way, in a very indie alternate version that I find extremely poignant. So let's go to the whole playlist that I am creating specifically after this podcast will go on air. You can find it on Madonna Songbook by Giulio Mazzoleni on Spotify. And it includes all the songs that Madonna has done mentioning or involving her family. The playlist obviously tries to include the songs. I'm not claiming to hold the truth. If you guys have suggestions, or if you want, I can fix it. Or if you yourself want to create yours, you're totally free. The beauty of Madonna's songs, she has 500 titles. We can play with them and do whatever we like with it. It's about personal interpretation. But here are some songs that Guy and I have discussed and we would put in this playlist. The first is Live to Tell, which is about family and growing pains, as we were saying. Guy, I know you really like this song.
I love this song. I always did. This is the first musically about it, and I know Patrick Leonard had written an instrumental version of the song first, as he did a lot of the times with Madonna's songs that he collaborated with her on. It's so haunting, this song. I think it also introduced us to a different side of Madonna visually with when this video came out, and just her face, which is just, that was for the most part, that's all we were looking at. Other than the clips from the movie that they put in. But when it came to Madonna's portion, it was really just about her face primarily, and it was just so beautiful. But lyrically, I think this song is hard to interpret because it's all over the place. But how I interpret portions of the song, again going back to the family and the father. If I ran away, I'd never have the strength to go very far. how would they hear the beating of my heart? That whole portion of the song. I feel like Madonna, she had something to say. She had something to share with the world. And even if she wasn't sure always what that was when she was younger, she knew that she was an artist. She wanted to express. I don't want to say express herself, but yeah, she had something to say. And if she was to be, so like trapped and kept in this world that her father wanted her to be in, and just stay here and continue with college and do something else with your life, what would she become? Would the world ever hear from her? Would the world ever know what she had to share, that was so deep within herself, and so that's how I interpret the song, is that she has this thing to share, and how will she if she's not allowed to?
Beautiful. I think that bridge is one of the best compositions of the whole 80s.
Yeah,
It's such
yeah.
a mysterious and that determined and very intense phrase. More songs about family. Promise to Try, we've discussed. Oh Father, Till Death Do Us Part, about her breaking up with her husband Sean Penn. Keep It Together, about growing up with her brothers and sisters. There's a song that was written for the erotic album with Andre Betts called Dear Father. You won't find it in this playlist, but I would like to mention it. It's not commercially available. And it was, again, about the relationship with her father. And then Deeper and Deeper from that same album does mention the teachings of Mama and Daddy. Inside of Me is knowingly a love song that she has dedicated to her mother. I will always have you inside of me, even though you're gone, love still carries on. And Nothing Really Matters is very clearly about being changed after motherhood, having found the real object of interest in her life, which is love for her child. Like a Flower, another unreleased song that unfortunately you won't find this playlist because it's not on Spotify, was written with Rick Nowels in the sessions for Power of Goodbye and Little Star. And it's again about her mother. And Little Star is the song that she very clearly dedicated to her first child.
And everything we were talking about with Oh Father and Promise to Try, I think when Madonna had her first child in Lola, this was a song, obviously, that was written for Lola. To me, I think this was her message to her in her way to be the parent that she never had, in making sure that Lola knew and always believed how magical she was, how special she was, how amazing she was, how she could be anything she wants to be, how she's a star. Don't let anyone ever dim that, not even me. Like, you are everything just the way you are. And I think that's something that she longed for, that she didn't get as a child from her own parents. For instance, it said she got discipline or doubt, put on her, being told that she couldn't do this and she couldn't do that, and who are you to do this, and you're never going to make it as that, and this is what you should do, and this is what you shouldn't do. This is her saying to her child, you are a star, you are everything, and you can be and do whatever you want, and you're beautiful and perfect, and always shine.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Moving on, we have Mer Girl from the same album. It's very interesting because it connects to the death of her mother. And then another unreleased song is La Petite Jeune Fille, a beautiful song that she wrote with William Orbit, again about teaching her daughter how to grow up smartly. But I Deserve It is a song she released, and it was very clearly and admittedly about Guy Ritchie, who she was about to marry. While Intervention in American Life is the song about her son Rocco, she performed it live a little bit in the Reinvention tour, but when she did Tears of the Clown, which was a beautiful show that she did in Melbourne, it was, I call it the sad show, where all of the songs were about sadness. Throughout the whole song, you could see her son's photo in the back, and she was going through a hard time with her son, going through the same teenager issues with his parents, disputing their authority and refusing to stay with her, and she was suffering a lot, which inspired her show. then Mother and Father from American Life that she performed so beautifully, both in Reinvention and Celebration Tour. It's so cool. I'm putting, or cool song, I'm putting this one in because in the original demo, Lola was singing. To me, it's always been a song about teaching values. And that's why she had first her daughter, and then she tried a children choir. The song was not released until it was remixed by Oakenfold for the Celebration album. But recently, Lola, who's starting her singing career, has been covering that song in her little gigs in clubs in New York and singing it as a slow song. And my interpretation is that she does connect to that song because as a child, it probably started in the house with the teachings that her mother, the values that she was passing on to her. I think it's a beautiful reconnection. Maybe one day she will release it. Then there's Best Friend, I Fucked Up and I Don't Give Up from the MDNA album or the Divorce album, where she was really angry or revisiting the issues of her divorce with Guy Ritchie. I would like to mention I'm a Sinner. It doesn't seem to be about family, but when I had the privilege of working with Madonna, I organized a few interviews, and the first one, it was for MDNA, and the first one, the journalist was an accomplished writer for La Repubblica newspaper in Italy, one of the leading newspapers, was afraid of her. And so while she was really pumped up for a great intellectual conversation, he was scared. He wasn't following up with his thoughts and was just throwing questions. And she started suffering it. And she looked at me and she said, "Do you want to have a word with him? Let's take a little break." And I kind of gave him ideas and was like, I don't know what else to ask. And we still have 20 minutes to go. And I said, why don't you ask her about why she chose those saints in I'm a Sinner? And she explained that to list those saints, she thought back of her mother's devotion and the saints that she particularly liked worshiping. And there were statues and little altars in the house to think how Catholic, how heavily Catholic they were. And so she lists Saint Christopher and says, "Find my way, I'll be coming home one day." Saint Christopher is the one that taxi drivers used to have in their car, his image, because it helps you, according to the tradition, find your way. Saint Sebastian, "Don't you cry, let those poison arrows fly." Whichever painting you see of Saint Sebastian, you'll see a naked man hit by arrows, which is the way how he was martyrized. And so that's the reference. And Saint Anthony, Lost and Found, it's the saint that you pray when you have lost something in your house or around. Saint Anthony will help you find it. And Thomas Aquinas, Stand Your Ground, is the saint philosopher that was used to reinforce the belief in the Catholic religion and that her mother would often quote. So that's why I decided to put this song in the playlist. I think it was a beautiful story. I was very happy with myself when she was telling him. She was looking at him, but I know she was peeking at me because she knew it, that it was a fan asking that kind of question.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The last 3 songs that I put in the playlist are Superstar, because Lola sings PVs in that. Dark Ballet, because Esther and Stella are heard at the end of the song. They're the one blowing on the fire of the ashes of the stake of Joan of Arc. And finally, Batuka, because both David and Mercy and Esther and Stella are featured and singing it. And David even had some royalties on the song because he inspired his mother with a couple lines and he asked for it. So he got it.
That's great.
It's beautiful that it started with growing pains and Madonna has managed to finally find enough love with a beautiful family that she has raised herself.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. I thought it was very in-depth and I really love it because sometimes Madonna is about having fun and stuff, but there's also a lot of intimacy in what she presents to us. And personally, it inspires me to dig in myself. It's always happened, even back then when I was 16 with Like a Prayer, but way up until Madame X. It's incredible how she turns on that little switch that goes on. And what about you? How are you investigating your own life? Or as she says, quoting Socrates in Now I'm Following You, an unexamined life is not worth living. Thanks again for this wonderful chat, Guy. I really appreciate it. And once again, thank you for your help putting together my book, especially with the first chapter. Congrats on the beautiful Madonna and the Breakfast Club movie. I really enjoyed it. Nobody else could have come up with something like that but a fan.
Thank you so much.
And a talented movie maker.
Thank
Please
you.
tell me about your next adventure. I mean, you've written an email to me, but you didn't say much. You have announced a project, right?
I announced the project several months ago, and you can just Google Hollywood Reporter and James Dean, and you can see various articles about it. It's, again, a biographical movie. This is not documentary form in any way. This is a completely narrative movie. It's a little-known gay love story about James Dean and his college roommate, who he became best friends with, and eventually it became intimate. It's a really, really deep friendship coming out story for both of them as they pursued their lives and trying to figure out who they are. So it's called Willie and Jimmy Dean. Mm-hmm. And we're casting the project right now. And so that's been exciting. And that's what I've been up to, and I'm up to next.
Can't wait to see it. And it must have been fantastic, the research process. If you did it as detailed as you did with Madonna Project, it must be fantastic. It's great to dig beautiful stories, and then we can relate to these stories. Besides the factual side of it, there's always an inspiration that goes into the personal.
Yeah.
Thank you again for this lovely chat. Hope we get to meet in person someday soon.
I hope so. Good night.
Ciao. Great. That was lovely. All right, let's do this little ID.
We went a little over an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You can cut it down.
Good.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to hate having to cut it. I know I'll keep everything probably. I don't know.
No, I'm glad that it's better that it went over than under.
Yeah. But I'm glad, I'm happy, I'm lucky. Nobody has ever been shy or poor of contents. But this one is the deep one. I'm really happy. I'll have it followed by the dance songs. So there's some deep dive.
Yes.
So just say a little hi thing. I will have an introduction, say that it's you, and you'll say, I'm glad to be on the podcast. And then I'll say what the subject of the episode is.
Wait, say that again? What do you want me to say?
I'll do an intro and I'll say, and the guest of this episode is Guy Guido. And you will say, hi, I'm happy to be on the podcast, or whatever you want to do. And then I'll follow up by saying, check us out on every streaming platform. Talk about Promise to Try and No Father.
Okay.
It's a simple way. Like, I will show my camera and then you will pop in. And then I'll say, check us out on streaming platforms out today.
Oh, so like this is sort of like introducing the podcast?
Yeah, it's an idea for the first day. Yeah, just to go on social, not in the podcast.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Hey, friends of Madonna Songbook. A new podcast episode is out now. And this time, my guest is Guy Guido, director of Madonna and the Breakfast Club movie. Hi.
Hi, Julio. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this podcast. And I'm really excited.
Everyone, go to your podcast streaming platform to hear and see us talk about Oh Father, Promise to Try, and all the songs Madonna has dedicated to her family. It's out now.
Cool.
That's it. I'll stop recording and let's see if the connection is good enough. And that's a wrap for this episode of Madonna Songbook podcast. If it leaves you thirsty for more stories about the songs we've mentioned or other stories, you can reference my book, Madonna Songbook, which has 500 songs detailed in every little credit, stats, facts, and beautiful stories and quotes from Madonna and her producers and collaborators. You can find it on Amazon in the European Union and the UK, Canada, Japan, and Mexico. In the US, we're only available on ebooks. And for the rest of the world, or any other country you're ordering from, if you go on Grafiche Antiga, you can find the direct link to order the book straight from the publisher. And there are some signed copies available from them. You can find the link in my bio on Madonna Songbook at Instagram and also in the description of this podcast episode. And by the way, Is there a song you'd like to know more about? Would you like it to be discussed in the podcast? Then please subscribe to the premium plan via Patreon. It's priced at just €7, and it will give you exclusive access to a monthly podcast episode made just with your questions on Madonna songs. And I will gift one copy of the book, Madonna Songbook, to a randomly picked member each month. Once again, I always hope you like this episode, especially this one, which was very intimate. Please let me know with your comments on your streaming platforms, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or Podbean. And also, please subscribe to be notified of a new episode as soon as it comes out. There are more episodes of this podcast coming to you. I'm working on them, and I've been releasing one every 2 weeks on Fridays. So look out for the next one in a few days. In the meantime, you can look back at the previous episodes for an analysis of songs like Into the Groove, Take a Bow, This Used to Be My Playground, Causing a Commotion, Vogue, and more. Yes, on Madonna Songbook, it's all about the music. Let's leave the chatter behind. Let the music take control. Ciao.